all pray for his recovery in Israel. And also to pray for the recovery of the people who just wounded this morning. We heard it in the news. I have arrived here from the place that is the only national home for the Jewish people, the State of Israel. The land of Israel is our home. This is the reason, actually, why my party, my political party, is called the Jewish Home. But I'm happy to admit to you that while I'm standing here with you today, I feel at home. Thank you for that. I feel at home not only because of the warm welcome, and not only because this is actually the city with the largest number of Jews in the world. I feel at home because you are sitting here today and full of active partners in the building, establishment, and preservation of the Jewish people's home. Our feet stand on different countries, but on identical ideological ground. We stand on the values of freedom, democracy, and justice. Israel and the United States together share deep comradeship. Your generosity, support, and steadfast stance alongside the State of Israel makes you part of this home. Our home is your home. Ladies and gentlemen, aside from the greeting, it is also my duty to speak openly about the new dangers lying in wait to ensnare us. And Danny talked about it a bit before me. Exactly 1 week ago, the United States and Israel marked with sorrow 15 years since the September 11 attacks. We will never forget that day, and I'm sure that everyone who sits here remember exactly when it happened. While I'm standing before you, my JNF friend in New York, I cannot help but think of one simple fact. There are JNF staff who set injured birds free to a new life in the forest and in the Israeli skies. And there are schemers who have launched evil iron birds into the skies in order to harm freedom and take life. During the past 15 years, the cycle of terrorism has expanded across borders and continents. Jerusalem, New York, Paris, Tel Aviv, Brussels, Istanbul, and the list goes on and on. The terrorism there is the same terrorism as it is here. It's the same things. Thus, we should also face it together. But during the past 15 years, terrorism has not only expanded, it has also transformed. In Tehran and Gaza, they openly and publicly declare their desire to wipe Israel off the map. Sometimes it is easier to deal with these dangers because the threat is clear and explicit. The enemy has name and a face. In the modern age, it is sometimes more difficult to identify the enemy. Sometimes it wears suits and ties. Sometimes it hides beyond so-called liberal claims. Sometimes the terrorists even employ people handle their public relations. And it is especially difficult to identify the enemy because terrorism has begun operated in new arenas. The battlefield in which we fight terrorism has changed. It is not only physical and in a defined place. Today, the battlefield is also legal, communication-based, and we must also be victorious in these new fields. We are not fighting against tanks, but against lawsuits in the courts. The field is not only close to the border, but is also on Facebook and on college campuses. But even if the field has changed, I'm convinced on one simple thing. It is only possible to beat enemy if we know who the enemy is. Therefore, I'm not afraid to state its name and loud. We are fighting against extreme Islamic terrorism. It is important to clarify and state explicitly, we are not at war with Islam. On the contrary, we share common values and a belief in one God and in a common Father. About 20% of the Israeli citizens are Muslims. We are at war with the dangerous extremists who, in the name of radical Islam, became terrorists who threaten the values of the free world. Yes, we must state in a simple, clear manner, we are at war with extreme Islamic terrorism. Unfortunately, the tools of freedom, communication, and technology developed by Western world in order to march us forward are now being taken over by extreme terrorists who use them to send us back in time. They take advantage of our values of liberty and equality in order to harm our liberty and equality. The enemy has turned freedom of speech into freedom of incitement, freedom of movement turned into freedom of infiltration. Here is another battlefield. While tunnels are being dug from Gaza, the BDS movement is digging tunnels under the foundation of the State of Israel and its values. The BDS people are trying to undermine the very fact of our right to exist. They refuse to acknowledge the most natural, basic, and simple right, the existence of the State of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state. We must throw this tunnel as well. The BDS movement has the same aim as terrorists, even if it conceals it. The aim is to wipe Israel off the map. You should know it. Sometimes the BDS movement funding sources are identical to those funding the terrorist organization. This is a new face of terrorism. The BDS is multifaceted, boycotting, defaming, inciting, and attempting to damage Israeli basic right to exist as a Jewish and democratic state. Criticism of Israel is, of course, legitimate. Criticism, the attempt to undermine Israel's right to exist is illegitimate. The BDS is illegitimate. I define it thus: BDS is another branch of terrorism in the modern age. Unfortunately, I know that there are some young Jewish liberals who get confused and are led astray by this movement. They fight the only democracy in the Middle East, their national home, under the guise of protecting human rights, and they swallow the lies that the Palestinian propaganda disseminates. They have fallen into this web and are not even aware of the fact that the mechanism pulling the strings are terrorists from radical Islam. I know that American Jewry is fighting the BDS movement on college campuses all over the country, and I'm certain that we will win together this battle. One of the fields in which I'm leading the fight for our homeland is the field of legal terrorism. This is a new and modern aspect of the same terrorism that we have been fighting for decades and that grows from ancient anti-Semitic roots. Lawsuits abroad, allegations against Israel that is acting illegally, organizations claiming alleged crimes, attempts to arrest Israeli leaders approaches to international tribunals. These are examples of the struggle being waged against us in the legal battlefield. When terrorism changes, we must change our method for fighting accordingly. When terrorism becomes global, we, members of the free and democratic world, must also unite together and state and compared in order to fight it whenever it may be found. Many countries worldwide understand the danger of the boycott and the legal danger and are preparing themselves to face the threats. Those countries know that the weapon of boycott that is presently targeting Israel is also liable to target them in the future. I would like to congratulate states in the United States on the legislation they adopt against the BDS. New York, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Illinois, Florida, Colorado, Arizona, Alabama, Georgia, Indiana, Iowa, New Jersey. I'm confident that additional states will soon adopt similar legislation. I'm counting on you. I am calling upon you here to join the effort of many people all over the United States to declare the boycott movement illegal in the state where this has not yet occurred. Friends, the state of the Jewish people respects and shall continue to respect the rights of various religious minorities who live within its border. In Israel, everyone is equal before the law. The legal system in Israel is a worldwide role model and justly earns appreciation and legitimacy by Jews from countries all over the world. The legal system in Israel comprises of Jewish and Arab judges, and whoever stands before them is treated equally. I'm happy to be the first Minister of Justice who had decided upon the establishment of the first court in Arab city of Taibe. I am hoping to end working on becoming the first minister appointing a woman to the position of Qadi in Sharia court. Under the direction of my ministry, under my direction, the Ministry of Justice insists upon the right of independence of the Muslims' religious court system in precisely the same manner as the separate Druze and Jewish religious courts. In law, in education, economics, even in the JNF forest, day in, day out, and without blazing headlines in the press or in the TV, Israel Arabs benefit from being citizens with equal rights in the democratic state, the State of Israel. The hypocrisy of whoever attacks Israel is clear. At the recent Olympic in Brazil, I don't know if you saw it, we in the whole world saw the Israeli judo medalist hand extended in peace to his Muslim opponents. His hand remained in the air. Also, a few days ago, when Prime Minister Netanyahu visited Europe, he extended his hand out for a handshake to a Muslim member of the parliament, but his hand was left hanging in the air. This is hypocrisy. There is not a single other country in the Middle East that ensures human rights like the State of Israel. There are those who claim that the world is worse off because of the State of Israel, and I reply, the opposite is the case. Israel is making the world a better place for all of us. We shall continue to fight with an iron fist against terrorism, BDS, and attempt to delegitimize Israel. But we are not engaging only in defense and in response to our enemies. As far back as when the Jewish National Fund was established 114 years ago, and when the Zionist movement began, we did this according to the principle of sword and sickle. Also in the spirit of the Bible, passage from the book of Nehemiah, which described the work of those building Jerusalem thousands of years ago. Everyone with one of his hand wrought in the work, and with the other held weapon. This is still the case today, sword and sickle. We shall continue the whole time to build and plant, to plant hope and to build our home and our future. The hand performing the work is no less important than the fighting hand. While they try to fight us with BDS, we, with your help, continue to build. We are entering a very significant year. We are entering the 50 years since Jerusalem was reunited and Gush Etzion, the Etzion bloc, the southern gate of Jerusalem, returned to the Jewish people. Today, JNF collaborating with Gush Etzion in two major projects, Gush Etzion Visitor Center and the promenade in the memory of the three boys. You, the friends of the Jewish National Fund, are supporting us with both hands, with one that holds the sickle and with one that holds the sword. With your support, we are making significant strides for the sake of Israeli nation, for the sake of better world. Allow me to briefly share with you what my colleague and I are doing in the government, some few examples that the hand working to build and plant is doing with your support. As the Minister of Justice, I, among other things, am also in charge of the Commission of Equal Rights for Persons with Disabilities. I am mentioning this because I'm familiar with your important work in this field and I cherish it. I visit the youth village Ale Negev, which assists the population that cannot assist itself. For this, I thank you in the name of the Israeli citizens for your support in this amazing place. Your donation and generous support the Jewish National Fund people ensure that nobody is left behind. With your help, the various JNF sites have been adapted for the disabled and those with special needs. This is our Jewish and human duty. I believe that the law is cornerstone of the value of equality and justice. Therefore, I regard the Ministry of Justice as the ministry that is social in nature. As a Minister of Justice, I am proud of the Israeli legal system where everybody is equal before it and before the law, and I'm also proud of the fact that we succeeded in reaching a situation where presently there are more women than men in my ministry. Actually, equality between people and sectors is not enough. There is also a need for equality between different places and regions. It is true that Israel is such a small country in relation to the United States that it's almost difficult to speak about center and periphery. After all, you can cross the entire country from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean in an hour drive. Nevertheless, there are significant social gaps in Israel that must be bridged. I am well acquainted with the important activities you are doing in the north and in the south. The enormous investment in the periphery, in education, in the environment, in employment, in the community, in transportation, in tourism. Carry on doing so. This is the way to ensure Israel's security, prosperity, and future. When I took up the post of the Ministry of Justice, I determined a clear policy. The government symbols and the government services shall be accessible to everyone and everywhere. Therefore, last month, for example, we chose precisely Beersheba in the south as the city where we are now launching the online resolution in land registry service. In the north, I am working for the continued existence of the court in the city of Katserin in the Golan Heights. The location of the court and the symbol of Israel's sovereignty there send a social message and a clear and important political message about the future of the Israeli Golan. The Golan will always be part of our home. I shall not go into details about many activities that we are performing in order to promote equality and bring the Negev and the Arava and the Galilee closer to the center. But let me promise you one thing. The Ministry of Justice shall continue to be a full partner and assist in all the significant measures that you are doing and taking to reduce the social geographical gaps in Israel. The Minister of Education is also working in the periphery. The Minister of Education, Naftali Bennett, has set a goal of providing equal opportunity to children from Israel periphery in the Negev and in the Galilee. His focus is on science and math for all. Unfortunately, today the chances a child will take high-level math is 10 times higher in Tel Aviv than in Chatzor HaGlilit or Ofakim, in the Galilee or in the Negev. Yes, 10 times. That is unacceptable. Bennett has set a goal of dramatically raising the level, sending better teachers, higher investment, high-tech volunteers, and much more. His particular focus is on Haredi and Arab students. For example, for the first time ever, Arab children are learning Hebrew in kindergarten instead of starting it in 3rd grade. After a year and a half, we can say the tide is turning. Finally, we are seeing a positive trend. I am proud of all this activity. I am proud also of the IDF, where Druze, Bedouin, women, men, Christian, Muslims and disabled, religious and secular people all serve together, unblocked, to defend our homeland. I am proud of my homeland, and I am proud of you for the assistance that you bestowing upon Israel. Dear friend, on behalf of the government of Israel and the Israeli nation, I thank you for your diligence and persistence. For over 100 years, you, our friend in the Jewish National Fund, have been working to build and plan, to build education, to build a future for the children in Israel, to plant hope, to instill security, and to preserve liberty and equality. In this vein, I would like to end my word by simply saying, איש את רעהו יעזורו ולאחיו יאמר חזק. שנה טובה, and thank you very much.